appreciate it. Well, I hope you ladies and a few brave men are excited to learn from these wonderful panelists that I've had a little bit of a chance to get to know. First, we have Dr. Shireen Shalhoub, who has lots of letters behind her name. First, they start with MD, then MPH, which is Masters of Public Health, and then we've got FACS, which is, you're going to explain that one.
Fellow of the American College of Surgeons.
Yes, she is the Assistant Professor of Surgery, which is a division of vascular surgery at the University of Washington. Dr. Shalhoub is a vascular surgeon and a translational researcher. She uses open surgical techniques and minimally invasive interventions for the treatment of vascular disease. She has recently completed editing a textbook called Hemodialysis, Access Fundamentals, and Advanced Management. Currently, she's investigating the effect of gene mutations on vascular disease by utilizing a collaborative approach to combining genetics and surgical outcomes. She is passionate about mentoring the next generation of young women surgeons and scientists. Thank you for joining us. Next, we have Kim Peterson. She is an author and a speaker on personal brand and a style consultant. As we can see, she knows what she's talking about. Kim's homelessness and fragmented identity did not stop her from founding Uniquely Savvy Incorporated, which is a Seattle-based style and brand consultancy back in 2000. She was motivated, or as I like to say, motivated. Kim Peterson is a champion of women who desire to elevate beyond the status quo to achieve confident breakthroughs in their identity, personal brands, and style, so they can achieve greater success, confidence, and fulfillment in business and in life with greater ease. As a personal style and brand consultant, Kim is passionate about helping you elevate your style, embolden your brand, and live more authentically empowered and aligned from the inside out. And we have also Debbie Page Whitlock, who's an award-winning business coach and leading international authority on business cash flows for women entrepreneurs. Debbie writes and speaks on business wisdom. She's acquired 20 years of entrepreneurial odyssey, including creating sustainable, scalable, and potentially saleable businesses. Oh, very good. What lights Debbie up is talking about business coaching and knowing that there's never been a better time for entrepreneurship and business ownership for women. I couldn't agree more. Very great. So today we're going to talk about turning failures into success. And you know, when we spoke with the doctor, we talked about perceived failure and what the difference between failure and perceived failure is. And we talked about a really great way to reframe this. This is the way I've lived in my life, and I know many of you in this room have as well. So I'd love to turn it over to you to talk a little bit about the reframe.
Thank you, Mona.
Yeah, thanks.
My perspective on failure when we talked about this, I've been thinking about it quite a bit since I was invited to talk. And my attitude towards failure is that these are not failures, these are my life experiences. And there's a very good saying that says, good judgment comes from experience, and experience comes from bad judgment. So we've all been there, and whether these are choices that we've made or circumstances that have put us in those situations that make us feel that we failed or that we're inadequate or insecure, I think it's a matter of stepping back and understanding what that means to us.
Absolutely.
So my personal experience, I took it just as one example because I've had many failures. And before I go into that, I'll have to share one more thing. I started an improv class 2 days ago, and part of the improv class was to stand up and say, I failed. And so I encourage you to embrace your perceived failures and stand up and say, I failed. So where I would say one failure that by society standards would be a failure is a failed marriage and ending up in a divorce. When you get married, nobody intends to get divorced, but it happens. And so that was one of the struggles of trying to say, did I fail, or did just my relationship run its course? And I prefer to say that the relationship did run its course. And because we took this attitude, it was a very amicable divorce. It was a very easy separation from the standpoint of the logistical component of it. Not to say that I didn't grieve or felt sadness to that lost relationship, but at the end of the day, we came out both stronger, and we still communicate, obviously. So I would say that's one example of many failures.
Great. So the question is, at what time, when was the time when you turned failure or perceived failure? And what I like to say is to my staff is, it's not a mistake if you learn the lesson. And I think we have all, and everyone in this room has learned lots of lessons, and we've heard that from many of our speakers today. So Kim, I'd love to hear when you've taken a perceived failure and learned a great lesson and turned that into a success for yourself.
Thank you, Mona. That's great. I've had a lot of failures, is what I want you to know, honestly. I want to be really candid and say, gosh, I've had a failure this week. I've had several this year, perceived failures. Last year, I had 3 miscarriages, and that feels like failure of being a mom, being a woman, and meeting a desire that I had. So I have a lot. But I will share with you, I think I'm going to share with you the one of how I started my business, Uniquely Savvy, 16 years ago, was a failed marriage. And that marriage ended in domestic violence. It ended in infidelity, in emotional, spiritual, financial abuse. And what that did... And when I was coming out of that marriage, I had nowhere to live, so I was actually homeless. And what that did is it took me all the way back to my failures as to who I am. As a woman, I'm not lovable, and I'm not capable of loving well, right? That's a failure. A failure as a woman of faith, because God hates divorce. But rather, being made in the image of God, he doesn't condone domestic violence either, right? So there was a lot of reframing that had to happen from that, but I started my business, Uniquely Savvy, as an image consultant back in 2000, and really, in the last 16 years, how I've turned this around is that all of my perceived failures and hardships and lessons and insecurities and fragmented identity, I turn them around, face my fears, exercise my courage muscle, and then turn it into the very work that I do today, which is to really champion women, not just in their aesthetic and their personal style and their professional presence, but rather having confident breakthroughs in their own identity. And I want to say, if I may, really quickly, thank you, Michelle and Natasha. Your messages were so profound in that the definition of success is different for everybody. I'm not judging my success today by my wealth, although I am up 200% this year over last year. That's amazing. And not by the recognition, but by becoming more comfortable and confident in my own skin and taking ownership of me, not being defined by my past, but using it to catapult me forward for the benefit of others.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
Miss Debbie.
So I'll take you back to 2007. I was 5 years into building a successful insurance agency. I've been in financial services. I've worked in the space of women and money since I was 26. I didn't know the first thing about buying a book of business when I was 32, but I figured it out because that's what we just do when we're entrepreneurial and we have initiative and drive. We just say yes and we figure it out like we were talking about. So I took a risk and I bought a business, and I didn't know the first thing about building a business or running a business, and you'll hear more about this later, I had a lot of ego, which was not ready to accept assistance and support from other people, and I sure as heck wasn't going to ask anybody else their opinion about what I might do to make this journey just a little bit easier. So 2007 comes along, I'm working as a financial advisor, I'm running an insurance brokerage, I've got 18 people working for me, I have full-time administrative staff. I have the loft office downtown Seattle. I look out on the city every day. I'm driving the car. I've got the husband. I've got the house, the whole thing, right? Success was mine. And I started to look out though, you know that intuition thing, that thing in your belly that says, something's not right here. I don't know what that not right is. So I look out into the future, get smart, hire a business coach, began looking at my business model and realizing that I was about to have an epic failure, disaster, bankruptcy kind of disaster, unless if I made a really quick decision. Now keep in mind, I built a 7-figure business. It's the hallowed mark of all women entrepreneurs. But in short order, I sold the business, a big chunk of it, and my epic failure was I closed that office. I moved back to what I affectionately called worldwide headquarters, which is my home office, which went from 1,800 square feet to like not in my daylight basement in West Seattle. And I felt like an epic failure. Like everyone around me was judging me. Who are you? Who are you? Who are you to give me advice? Who are you to sit here and make a suggestion about me? And it took a long time for me to take a look at that as possibly the best gift that could have ever been given. Because once I got through my grieving and I learned forgiveness, I was able to come to the other side and say, as God is my witness, I will live every day on this planet making sure that there is no woman who doesn't have access to the information that she needs to build a sustainable, scalable, and saleable business so that she can have economic independence to give choice, so that if a marriage ends, she doesn't have to wonder, how am I going to support myself anymore? So it takes time to reframe that. That's not like wake up in the morning and go, wow, look at this, right? There were a lot of tears that were cried over that one.
Right. The lessons are hard and they do take a long time to learn. And I think one of the things that we all have on this panel, and many of you in the room have, is taking that knowledge and sharing it with the younger generation so that they don't have to learn the lessons as hard as we did. And my story is, I'm a failed Indian. You know, if you're Indian, you're either a doctor or you're an engineer. And my family is literally half doctor, half engineer. And I was the oddball. You know, I didn't want to do either of those things. And I got into sales, and I'll never forget. My dad used to always say, write cards. Da 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 da. I love you. Be successful. Da da da. I love you, Dad. Be successful. Happy birthday. Have a great day. Love you. Be successful. And one day, it stopped saying be successful. And that's when I knew I had reached success in his eyes. And we've talked about success and definition and defining success all day today. And you know what I hope that you learn from us today as well is that you have to define success for yourself. So, okay, so then my next question is, what was the most impactful lesson that you learned from this experience that you shared or another experience?
I would say self-compassion. I didn't know there was a label for it.
Yeah.
But that is what I've learned, is to be compassionate and to be gentle to me. I think being a woman in surgery, despite the fact that it seems common and you watch Grey's Anatomy and there are all these wonderful, sexy women who are surgeons, makes you feel like the world is full of women surgeons. The reality is there's 12% women who do what I do. And I'm very fortunate to be in Seattle where we have a lot of women surgeons, but when you travel to national meetings, you realize that you're actually still in the minority. And that self-compassion has propelled me to be successful in that field by being gentle to myself and not listening to the voices that say you're inadequate, you're not as good, you're not as capable. And there's been a lot of these. I mean, I've started with my advisors pre-med that said you will never go to medical school, you'll never get into medical school. And I think the lesson was whenever somebody says you can't do this, my answer is watch me.
Yeah, girl.
So.
Yes,
So good.
definitely. Kim?
So good. So I have a 3-part answer.
Okay.
Hello, yes, because that's who I am, comprehensive. And big picture, where's our Karen? Yes. So one thing I really learned from this that I would want to share forward to the younger generation and to anyone who would listen is that no matter our successes, no matter the amount of time that goes in between our hardships, our failures, etc., our challenges will go with us wherever we go until we stop and pause and do the inner work and the heart work and the soul work to really look at whatever those circumstances were to move beyond it. And I'll share that, this is part 2, is because what I realized is really my whole life was destined to fail. If you looked at it on paper, right? I'll share candidly that I, when I was 26, I learned that I was conceived out of rape. When I was 12 years old, I was sexually assaulted. And it was really, and even before that, I was abandoned times 2 by that time. So what I want you to know is that my whole thing for me is I'm not worthy. I'm full of shame. I don't have any value. So beginning at 6, then amplify it at 12, then in college, then in the marriage. My problems went with me wherever I went, no matter the level of the modicum of successes. And it was my counselor, I want you to know this, it was a therapist. I love therapy. Yes, I love therapy, it's worth it, as well as coaches. I never had someone be so bold with me before as to say when I went in for domestic violence counseling for almost 3 years, she said, Kim, you have been successful to a certain degree. I was about 29 at this point. She said, you're doing okay, you know, but I'll tell you what, until you take all those boxes down off the shelf, family of origin, the sexual assault, the abandonment, the neglect, whatever those are, until you take those down off the shelf and start unpacking them, you will be limiting, you know, your capacity, your potential, your success. And while she was not saying that domestic violence is okay, because it's not on any level, but she said you're going to continue to go down this path and the same sorts of things are going to happen. Nobody, by the time I was 29 years old, young ladies, had talked to me like that. So I thought if someone was willing to be that bold with me, I'm going to do the work. So I started unpacking. And like Debbie said, it is not easy. None of this is easy. For me, I can just speak to that. It's been painful. It's been arduous. The third part of that is I am not defined by my past. I'm not defined by my past. How I was conceived, that I was abandoned is not a reflection of me. Sexual assault at 12 years old is not a reflection of me. How you feel about me is not a reflection of me. I'm not defined by my past.
Thank you for sharing so deeply.
Always so good.
Yeah.
Always so good. I love these stories. I would impart 2 pieces of wisdom. The first is don't figure it out all by yourself. There's always a community of people around you. You'll hear later, if you don't have a tribe, not a problem. You can start building one today. You are. You're here. Like now, we are all connected. You know, I believe very much that there is no accident in our meeting today. I believe that we all determine somewhere in time and space, depending on how you like to look at belief, to be here today, you know, to share this experience and what it's all about. And I also believe in the, I think it's the ancient Chinese proverb that talks about the story of the red thread, that there's this invisible red thread that connects every person you've ever met. And that no matter how far away you go, you will always be connected by this invisible red thread. So the first thing is start building your tribe, don't do it alone, and hire professional help. Just hire it done. No matter how smart you are, you need to have people who can advise you on how to navigate. Because I was good at this didn't mean that I came into it with the skills to run a business. I had to hire someone to teach me how to do that. Same for you at every stage and level of your business. You need to hire people to teach you the things that you don't know how to do. So don't do it alone.
So we'll close today with just one sentence or a few words of wisdom to share with the young folks that are watching today and us seasoned entrepreneurs in the room. You know, just one thing that you'd like to share. If you know, one of those things, like if you could talk to your 20-year-old self, what would you say to her?
I would say it takes a village. So it does. And people are so hung up on the idea that mentorship has to be one person.
Right.
It does take a village. So find those mentors and ask of them what they can give you in their strengths. And that's your village that will grow you. So I would say it takes a village. So just remember that. You can't do it alone. You shouldn't have to do it alone. I will second what you said.
Awesome. I would want to encourage you to challenge the limiting beliefs. Challenge the limiting beliefs that you have of yourself as a woman, as a professional. Challenge the stories that other people have told you about you, and really seek for truth in it. What's true about it? Because when you can champion the truth, I do believe it. It is the truth that will set you free in business and in life.
And then I would wrap it up and say, you've got this.
Yeah.
You got this. You know, the three amigos, fear, doubt, and worry, just put them in the car, bring them along with you. They're good friends. They're fun to talk to. You know, you've got this. You've got it.
Great, thank you. And I always like to share it with folks to just keep going. It's hard. It's hard doing what you do. It's hard being a woman. It's hard, particularly being a woman of color. It's hard. It's hard to be an entrepreneur. You know, I don't know if you've ever seen, like, when somebody posts, I got a new job, and there's like 100,000 likes. And if you say, I just launched a business, crickets. Crickets. So if you've chosen the path of entrepreneurship, I applaud you.
Yeah.
It is the most rewarding thing I've ever done, other than being an auntie to my 2 nephews. But I just keep going. People are going to tell you no. And my advice is if people tell you no, ask a different question until you get what you want. And I thank you so much, all of you ladies, for sharing all of your wisdom. And I'm Mona Das, and I look forward to the next time we can connect. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing.